Hey guys, it's Tiriko Pintua, and today I'd like to talk about my thoughts and feelings regarding artificial intelligence and art. Lately, it's been a hotbed of controversial topics in the digital art space. It's almost just as controversial as the NFT art space, if not a little more troubling. But I'm not here to give a lecture of what is AI art, what is Stable Diffusion. Gonna talk lightly about it, but not too detailed about it because this video is mostly focused on my thoughts and opinions. If you aren't familiar with what Stable Diffusion is, it's this deep learning model that AI art uses. It's where you can type a text, a prompt, and it can generate an image out of it, whether that's visual photo, video, or even art itself. There's multiple models that follow Stable Diffusion, such as Midjourney, DALL-E, and some iPhone apps. The image itself can be manipulated by how specific the prompts can get. So you can type in, the style of the visual, let's say the artistic style, the colors you want it to use, the overall context, and the model will run many experimentations and different variations of what this thing could look like. Earlier on, a lot of people were using it as jokes and something that was more of an entertainment. Like, what would images of Jesus Christ look like being caught on a security camera? But now it's getting into the territory of digital art. If you aren't familiar with what's happening regarding that, the long story short is that images and art pieces made using these generators have been called out due to art theft, since it's using existing art and images already made being sampled with the technology, and amongst other controversies such as the ethics of AI art and the sketchy uses for it. And the thing is, this technology needs existing material to work off with. Now, a lot of artists have voiced valid concerns and criticisms towards the ethics of its usage, like how most of the art made with Stable Diffusion contains traces of art already made by other artists, and how this can be considered as art theft, and your work being used as a guinea pig for Stable Diffusion to sample off of, without your consent. Another issue is the relationship between artists and the art platforms these artists put their work into, which has not been supportive to the artists expressing their concerns, therefore alienating the digital art community. So here's the thing, I don't specialize in illustration or digital painting since my focus is on the animation side of things. For illustration and digital painting, I can see it as a way with experimenting different compositions and approaches, especially when you need a bit of inspiration and when you can't visualize anything. So yeah, I can see it work as a supplement. Now, as someone who dabbles into animation projects, which we all know is that the process for that is incredibly meticulous, cumbersome, and repetitive, so the thought of working smarter or even automation has always been something I'm curious about. Again, AI or automation can be a supplement and can help artists fulfill a vision or an expression that they can't be done by a human hand, or the process by human hand would be way too cumbersome. There's a project me and a friend are working on where we're trying to automate the process of translating 2D animation, generating material maps, shaders, and normal maps into a 3D set with real-time lighting and reactive shaders. But from what we found out, doing everything manually is a really meticulous process, so we have been tinkering with the aid of AI to help us get closer to that process without killing ourselves. So yeah, an AI can help you deal with meticulous tasks or maybe recreate things that you'd normally do for your own things, but getting rid of the lengthy process. AI can do things like remaster my 500 pixel flash animation that I made back in high school to a 4K quality, and can remaster some things that have been lost to time and the quality is just degrading. I don't think the tech is perfect, but I do think there is a place for AI technology. I know there are anti-AI artists who look at the results from AI and become nitpicky about its imperfections, which is like, yeah, of course, the tech isn't perfect, but it has gone a long way from when it started, and now it's getting quite scary. But again, that's just me talking about AI in general. While I do think there can be opportunities and some promises for AI use, there's also some shady shit and unscrupulous uses for it too. And I would like to talk about that a bit. Art theft. This is the big one. There has been a lot of art being uploaded online made with the use of AI and Stable Diffusion. Most of these art pieces are made using prompts and scripts for sure, but it is highly referencing and sampling existing art by the pixel. And what happens is that you get a highly sampled collage and a mishmash of art put into one thanks to AI, Stable Diffusion, and the prompt used to get that. Remember, Stable Diffusion can whip out a lot of different experimentations at a high speed that no human can do. But the big factor is there's evidence that AI is using existing art pieces because of the fragments of signatures found in some AI generated art. There's also AI generated art made by solely focusing on one artist, especially when the prompt is being told to draw in a certain artist style. It's so much easier to trace back where the sampled image is from and, who the original artist may be. If the following AI generated art is making profit based on this model while also using non-consenting artists' work to be sampled, then that calls for the argument of art theft. There are artists that I follow that have had their work sampled and used through this Stable Diffusion stuff without their consent. I feel like this is the biggest problem that needs to be addressed. Robbed opportunities and certain loopholes. There was that one controversy with an art piece made using Stable Diffusion, using Midjourney, and it won an art contest. Journalism is already finding loopholes to not pay artists and use AI art to come up with their own images for their articles. You have these artists specializing in the so-called AI art scene and submitting art in the same space as artists who do things by hand. Knowing that there's a lot of AI art and illustrations being, sampled in images made by skilled artists, this already adds to the issue of art theft being rampant. I'm not sure if this is a big issue when it comes to studio work just yet, since a lot of heads in animation, games, and film, and comic studios have voiced their disdain for AI-generated art, which I think is a good thing. Disrespectful tributes. There was that one controversy with that one dude making AI-generated art based on the late Kim Jong-gi, who passed away recently due to a heart attack. The week later, his art was fed through a Stable Diffusion model, and the person responsible for it claims it is a homage or tribute. The responses for the work has been overwhelmingly negative. Some of the reasons include this is a ways laid to pay tribute to someone who just recently passed away, and of course, the timing of his death. And of course, this individual responded to these criticisms telling folks to just embrace AI art. I personally think it's the most dishonest way to pay tribute to someone, because I feel like if you wanted to pay tribute to someone, you're going to try and put your heart into it, the effort, understanding the trials, understanding the pain of making that tribute, and that will help you get closer to understanding what this tribute means to you personally. But that's just me. But even artists who are currently alive are already getting their work used through these models against their will. The AI brotude. What's a way to convince someone that a community really sucks? Someone from that community being reactive and disrespectful back. When artists do voice valid concerns and criticisms of the use of AI art, the people pro AI art or defending it usually fire back with most disrespectful remarks. Some taunting that they're here to take artists' jobs away, they're doing it better anyways, and intentionally provoking artists who are anti-AI art. There's this one user who selectively chose to make AI art based on an artist's work that clearly expressed he does not consent to it, and purposely does it so that the original artist would try to sue the individual, sort of anticipating it. The individual in question would make stupid arguments saying, "Him suing me is for research so we can understand the law and its loopholes with AI." You know how problematic law cases are? I think all in all, there is a lot of people who try to provoke artists or downplay the work of these artists after these artists expressed valid concerns. Now I want to talk about common arguments from pro-AI art or AI artists that fire back when these concerns are voiced, and my overall opinions about it. AI is doing exactly what humans are, working on a prompt, taking inspiration, and making art since it's all derivative anyways. That's such an oversimplification. I've talked to a few AI enthusiasts and people who code. They don't think AI is at that level yet where they're able to have consciousness and feeling and all that. It's more like it's working off of a collected database gathered previously. They can build their own library of interactions and reference of what's appropriate. Maybe they're growing based on information, but they're not really growing based on other human things, since our current state of feelings does affect the work that we make. In the prompt, I could type horrific in the prompt, but that could mean so many different things to so many different people. At least with a person, I can tell them that if they're drawing way too many or way too little fingers on one hand, at least they can make that change. You're basically ripping off someone from another thing. How are you different from what AI is doing? You're basically ripping off a shot from this anime. When I do something that's highly inspired by something, I'm not afraid to make a call out or even cite my references. It's really not a big deal, and I like sharing what I'm into. At least when I try to make a tribute to something, I use my own skills and knowledge about animation and art principles to see what I can understand about my inspirations and influences. I know I'll struggle, make mistakes. I'll even implement my own takes here and there, putting myself into it and making this thing my own thing. But that's a part of the artistic journey. What about AI? Well, it sounds like maybe you sample a few reference images, do a bit of scripting, and do a bit of prompting to whip out versions. It's not really the same. You're kind of at the mercy of an AI rather than you having an actual voice. Artists just don't understand the tech and they should embrace it. They're just jealous or afraid of the tech that might steal their jobs. You know what, maybe some artists actually do feel like this, but I think overall, it's not that we don't understand the tech, it's more like we have voiced concerns about it and why it's problematic. Most of the uses that we're seeing art made using AI and Stable Diffusion has not been used in a way we would approve of. The problem is that artists who voice concerns are treated with disrespect, maybe condescending even. So even though a few artists and myself can see the benefits of what AI can contribute to our art, it's hard to embrace something when we're being disrespected by something that's revolved around it. It's more than just typing prompts and uploading an image for sampling. You artists just don't understand the tech. After talking to a few people who do dabble into AI generated art and images, I can agree that there is more than just typing prompts. But the prompts do play a huge factor. From what I've mostly been seeing and what many people have mostly been seeing, the prompts play a huge factor. They're surface level prompts. There's like emphasis on different words. There's a positive and a negative value to things. And with prompts, it's just odd to depend on happy accidents by an AI to make AI art, without actually making intentional decisions on art principles, design, and experimentation. Also guys, the prompts that I'm seeing y'all are using are so basic and surface level. Beautiful eyes, beautiful smile, extremely detailed, ultra realistic, provocative, trendy hairstyle, done in this artist style. 1 cup of Sam Does Art. 3 cups of popular, 2 cups of big titties. Wow guys, I totally feel the soul in these keywords. And it's crazy to think that there are people trying to take ownership of these prompts. Why are artists, aka draw slaves, being such gatekeepers? Who are they to say what they can do and what we can't? What's art and what's not? Look, I personally think there needs to be some level of gatekeeping to uphold a standard of a community. That's why we have entrance exams, portfolio reviews, or some form of screening process. Some communities are uptight, some are super shallow, with shallow-minded people, some are chill, just as long as you respect everyone. In the general art scene, no one really cares about some sort of criteria since anyone can get into it. Anyone that likes to express or get better. The art scene does not condone things like art theft, belittling an artist's value, or not compensating an artist for their work, which is the interactions the AI art scene has been involved with, unfortunately. I'm a bit biased of what an artist is, and I think that's fine. Everyone should have a bias. I think it's fair for anyone that has been involved with their practice for such a long time. They're gonna form their own understanding and opinion of it and their own bias. It's not like you decide to learn how to draw, pick up a pencil, and start making work, and suddenly we're like, you can't be an artist, get out of here. But you do fan art, so you do art theft because you make profit off of that. The thing that I notice about these guys is that they tend to have very little understanding of certain policies, and then they tend to simplify things and mix things up. Art theft is basically stealing from someone else's art. Let's say you stole it, not give the original artist credit, or you're tracing someone else's art or taking bits of someone else's art without their consent, and then proceed to make money out of it. Drawing a character from an existing property is not art theft. Sure, it can violate certain policies to make money based on someone else's property, since it's like infringing on someone else's intellectual property, but that's a whole other conversation. Not now. Why should these pompous and super popular artists who are probably already rich deserve credit and compensation for their work? Ugh, so entitled. Well yeah, because every artist does deserve their recognition and their compensation, regardless of skill level or reputation. Sadly, we don't have support in the digital art space compared to the music industry, where there's royalties and licenses, which the music industry is very protective about their work, and they would do their best to shut that shit down if Stable Diffusion for music became easily accessible. Art made with AI has soul. Tell me it doesn't. And then they proceed to show examples of overly illustrated cinematic lighting pieces. Look, I don't know, I don't really feel it when I see AI generated art pieces. It looks nice, it gets the idea across. It may look generic, it may look overly rendered. These aren't really bad things, but it can feel really tacked on. And I feel like it's quite easy to tell something that's mindless and something that's a bit more intentional. But I think to these guys, anything that looks pretty has soul. Now, here are some thoughts that I personally want to share about in regards to AI art, the tech, and what it means for the future. The tech is definitely going to be here to stay in some form or matter. It might change from what it is right now, but it's definitely going to be around. That's just the nature of human technology and innovation. Things are going to start getting consolidated and roles will start being removed. Outside of AI, softwares we use have already made things a lot more accessible, which also led to certain jobs being close to extinct, and all of that consolidated into one other role, which is forced to wear many hats. It's an issue in the workplace where the more things become more accessible and consolidated, the higher the expectations and the faster turnovers will be. If Stable Diffusion does have a role in the mainstream workplace, that problem can arise quickly. And that's why I kind of encourage every artist to explore, different methods, maybe different tech or software, and work on their own projects to experiment and what they're capable of with certain techniques. The problem with technology and things like the law is that the law always has to play catch up. It's because there's a lot of unexplored territories when it comes to tech, so there's a lot of loopholes and gray zones that the law hasn't really tackled yet. It's the same thing that happened with the NFT scene. When the bubble burst, no one really understood what it was. The law didn't either. But over time, the IRS and the law started to catch up. Lawsuits being formed, people getting arrested, and taxes for cryptocurrency. Sadly, there isn't a lot of support for artists and digital artists because it's not an issue that everyone really cares about. The music industry would instantly revolt and try to shut that shit down because they too will argue that it's theft. Why can't it be the same with digital art? Maybe it's just that no one really cares about digital arts and illustration space as much. Maybe there's also the argument of how inappropriate it would be to copyright a certain style. I just think that there's not enough care or concern for the illustration community since the everyday Joe and Jane don't interact with those as much as compared to, music. I don't know. This is just me thinking out loud. I don't think I have a solution for AI art at the moment. I mean, the only things that would make sense to me is that if an artist intentionally goes through the process of, let's say, encrypting a deep signature or metadata, so wherever that thing is online, and if it's used in a, Stable Diffusion AI model, it can link back to the original art and the artist. And they can have a say whether that's allowed or whether it's not, and if it's allowed, they can be compensated for it. That's what a lot of digital artists were feeling like the blockchain technology was trying to do, that deep proofing or authentication. But again, this is just me thinking. I'm not trying to come up with a solution, nor should you follow the solution. But the thing about this AI controversy is that it kind of sparked something good and brought up some really good reasons why if you're a passionate artist and loves to make art, you should still continue. And that is the importance of a community. Over time, community started to matter more to me than, let's say, solo success. And with this whole AI art controversy, a lot of artists started to share concerns together and make a group effort to be heard. They've been pretty supportive towards each other and are constantly spreading awareness because we do care about the craft that we do and we do care about other artists. And when we care, we can point out when something can be a problem to us. With group effort, it'll only make our community grow and be heard. Artists can stand up for one another. They can support each other when one is going through hard times. Like if an artist got let go from a major studio, their friends can help vouch for them for work in other places. If someone needs resources, a lot of people are willing to reach out to help. It's awesome to see a highly respected artist defend a lesser known artist when they're going through turbulent times. Artists can have the power to collaborate on projects together or make things without always being at the mercy of big studios, corporations, or clients that don't respect or understand the craft. Beyond the whole controversy of AI art, we make things because we are driven to create, to express, and to share our struggles and our winnings, to share our own life experiences, and to share lessons. I think that's what makes it so valuable when you see art made by an actual person, rather than a computer or some person trying to be someone else by typing a few keywords and prompts. If we're so worried about losing our job to an AI, then why did we start in the first place? During Lightbox of 2022, there was a wall that was meant to pay tribute to Kim Jong-gi. And there were many people that contributed to adding to the wall regardless of skill level. And I feel like that's a very beautiful example of the community being supportive of each other, with each tribute being a reflection of an artist's point of view, their own approach, their own understanding of the world, their own struggles, and what their work means as a tribute to Kim Jong-gi and the community overall. A lot of these people who contributed probably prefer digital art over traditional ink and markers, a medium that Kim Jong-gi was well known for. Some tried to embody the style of Kim Jong-gi, and I feel like that feels a lot more honest than doing some AI sampling based off Kim Jong-gi's work. And like I said, it means so much more when someone makes something and they were behind everything from scratch. They endured the labor, the pain that went through it, and the discoveries that went through it. I think that's why some of the greatest art pieces of all time, especially when it comes to music too, all come from very personal experiences. And it feels more truthful and valuable when there was human decision put behind every piece of art. Whereas, let's say a digital AI model, there's a higher ratio of just happy accidents, things that are unintentional. I guess that's just the artist in me. I think a lot of people still like seeing things made by actual people. I'm pretty sure most parents would find it endearing when kids draw something for their parents. The skill level's not there, it's very rudimentary, but what also matters is the heart put into it. I mean, it would be nice to know that I got a piece of art drawn by Hayao Miyazaki himself, rather than getting a piece drawn by an AI model trained to draw in the Hayao Miyazaki way. The first example feels a lot more authentic, and I know it came from human experience, not a collection of prompts and keywords. I like to think about it like this. There's someone that bakes cakes. Let's say that they wanted to make a nice cake for someone that they cared about, someone that they loved, or someone that they wanted to impress. There's actually no harm in hiring someone else to make a better cake. They might be the right person for the job and they'll know exactly what's needed for the cake. But if, let's say, you hire someone to beat up a bunch of bakers, steal their cakes, sample it all together, and you're basically just taking the backseat saying, I want the most provocative, thought-provoking, trendy cake out there, in the style of Gordon Ramsay, I mean, that just sounds a bit weird. But another perspective you could look at it is, let's say you decide to make the cake yourself. While you're learning about the process of making a good cake and struggling with that pain, you're trying to understand what it all means to you. It's a learning process. You're getting better at it. You're constantly thinking about who it's for, what the purpose is for that cake, all the emotions and feelings that come with it, and how those decisions on that cake is all related to the person in mind. Even if you finish making the cake and it's not the most perfect cake in the world, making it for someone and learning about it is a whole experience that you grow and learn from, that comes with soul and feeling. And again, the most beautiful thing about human beings is the ability to express, rather than claim copyright on certain prompts and keywords and start suing each other because you claimed a certain prompt for an AI art. That's not what art should be about. Anyways, bye. Interested in learning hand-drawn animation or learning how to finish an animated shot from beginning to end? Have a look at the store where you'll find the complete Introduction to 2D Animation video course, tutorials, and other resources. Learn classical animation approaches, drawing, lectures, techniques, and other process videos. Visit the store through the link in the description below.